Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Thank you for making time to attend this interview. I'm very happy that I have this opportunity to ask more questions about kimchi is for everyone.
Yay.
So, I attended your book launch last December and I noticed how much attention this book has received from the public. So, really excited to know more about this book. So, Thanks again for coming.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me. This is such an honor.
So, my first question would be because this one is your first picture book. I know you wrote a lot of academic books, but picture book is the first time. So my first question will be, why do you want to create this book, and why kimchi is the topic that you want to discuss?
Gosh, big question. Okay, so I've grown up with kimchi, and it's something that I think I've just taken for granted, probably, because it's always in every meal. And yeah, I've always been interested in it because my mother used to have a kimchi factory in China. Um, but I didn't have any appreciation for it. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is I do a lot of work with young children, as you know, and my work involves multicultural settings, multilingual children. I work on the area of translanguaging. So, we often talking about a lot of different like cultural foods, traditions, and so on. And in just one occasion, I remember a young child being kind of, yeah, like I was saying something about kimchi to another child, and she said, "Oh, what's that?" And, she just looked kind of disgusted. And I said, "Hey, do you even know kimchi? Like, have you tried kimchi?" And she said, "No." And so I pulled out my phone and I showed her, and, kimchi is very red, and of course it is quite intimidating, so I'm not I know that this is not surprising, but she was like, "Ew." So I don't know, the educator in me wanted to kind of explain to her what kimchi was and sort of like give her a lecture about it. But it also made me think I don't know enough about kimchi myself. So I just decided that year that I would go back to Korea and watch my auntie make kimchi. And around November, December is the kimjang season. This is what we call it, kimjang, where we marinate and the kimchi. So in the olden days, you would do that around that time when it's very cold, because you put the kimchi in a thing called an ongi, and you bury it deep in the ground, and then it keeps it cold. It ferments all throughout the year, and then you can have it with your family and so on.
How long do you need to ferment it under the ground?
Well,
Time ago.
it can ferment for the whole year. Obviously, it gets very sour, after a while. But these days, we now have refrigerators at the right temperature, so it will tell you, yes, like, have your kimchi now, otherwise it becomes too sour. But something else I love about kimchi is that when it gets sour, you make the kimchi jjigae, right? So the stew.
The soup.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yes, exactly. And also, it's a great time to be making kimchi fried rice. That's the time when you need aged kimchi to do that kind of thing. Anyway, so I went back, I documented the whole process, and I'm actually so lucky that I have my auntie who is in her 80s and still makes this kind of thing, at home.
Still the process?
That's right. I printed out some photos here. And I just wanted to show you because it's really such a labor intensive thing. And unless you see the whole process, I don't know that people can appreciate this. It's not a simple matter of just marinating, a head of cabbage. It's actually really complicated. So we went to the market. We got the we bought the cabbage together. We got like 30 batches. 30 batches is a lot to me, but you know, apparently that's a very small batch for my aunt, who then makes all of this and then shares it with family and also with neighbors. And also neighbors and other family members share theirs with us. So that's why the whole year you can have kimchi.
Oh.
It's amazing. And the other thing is every single household has a different kind of kimchi. So some will like it more spicy, some are going to put different kinds of salted, you know, vegetables or seafood. So, you know, it's really like you're not just having kimchi all year long, it's actually different kinds of kimchi. Okay.
So there are different
Yeah.
types of kimchi,
Oh,
as you say in the book.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And for different seasons also. So I really learned a lot about how to slice the cabbage, how to sprinkle all the salt, rinse, put it in again, rinse, let it wilt overnight, and then the next day go through that whole process again, then doing all the chopping, cutting, slicing, peeling, every single verb you can think of to make the marinade. And then we have to really get in there and marinate everything. But this process, you know, I mean, first of all, doing it for 2 days, oh my God, I thought my shoulders and my lower back and it was all in pain. But I like my aunt who is like 86 years old, you know, can still do this with no problem whatsoever. But it is really hard work. But it really showed me the love and the care that goes into something like this. And so we have a word in Korean for that, like this 정성. You know, giving all your heartfelt energy into something. And what I love about Korean food is the hands that go into it. Like it's not, you don't stir things by, you know, a wooden, I don't know, like spoon or something, right? Like you do everything by your hand and by your energy. And I just think that that kind of embodiment is it's just so special to me. Yeah. So when I came back to Australia, I had all this footage, and being a researcher, I really wanted to do something with this. And I was talking to an artist, and she said, "Hey, why don't you make a picture book, and then you could use that to teach like young children who maybe don't want to try it." You know, and I thought that was such a great idea. So I found this amazing illustrator. My illustrator is Japanese, has Japanese background, and she likes very cute style. And I think you know, working with her has really brought this material alive, because without the illustrations, and the illustrations are beautiful, you know, sometimes you look at certain picture books and you don't really connect with the illustrations.
With the pictures,
But this one, you know, I just felt like she understood me, and it works so well with even some dense, you know, language that's in there. Her images really just kind of brighten that up. So we made it into picture book, and wow, it
so you're turning all of these pictures into the illustration.
Yeah, and you know, I had such a hard time trying to figure out
Pick
which
out
page.
which.
Yeah. And the illustrator was brilliant at that. She just said, okay, no, there's this amount of space, you know, we'll choose this to try to show the process and still capture that complexity. So I think if you look at the book, you will see that complexity is still there, but it's really like key images.
Okay, so that one is about the illustrations, but what about the content of the book? Because just now you said you can't really give the lecture to the children because you don't really understand what kimchi is at that time. So what is the process of really finding the content?
Oh yes, that's such a great question, because it's through trying to learn it myself that I really felt like, oh, I understand why when you want to learn in another language, for instance, you really have to be interested in something to motivate you to to push further. Okay, so my Korean, my Hangul, like this is what we call Hangul, is not great. Like I can read and I can write, but it's very slow. And like I bought some picture books when I was making this book and to do some research. Yeah, and yeah, and that one too. And you know, as you can see, that as pictures, they're just small words around, and that's easy for me. I can do that. So these are really for primary kids, right? But I was really surprised at myself at how I could read more intermediate level books. Like, look, hardly any pictures and a lot of text, right? And so that's really hard for me. It takes me a really long time. But because I was so interested in it, and I didn't want to read all English books talking about kimchi because I really wanted to hear from like a Korean perspective. So when I read this, I also realized, well, first of all, Google Translate, thank you so much. You know, I could read more, then I could understand more, right? But I really appreciated the fact that I had Chinese understanding of characters, because there's so many words like that sound similar in Korean. And if I could imagine the word in Chinese, and I can imagine the characters, that which is all about meaning, then I could understand some of the Korean words also. And I didn't have to look up Google Translate. And I'm not sure if people don't understand that, then they don't understand what joy that is. It's very motivating to know that you can draw on something else to learn something new. So it was actually strengthening my Korean. My interest in this thing was making me want to know more. And meanwhile, I was writing about it in English, right? So this kind of like multilingual literacy, let's call it that, it's also a translanguaging process, was super interesting to me. And of course, I was also reading English books too, and this is one that I got from the Kimchi Museum, and it had so many things about the modern way in which we're thinking about kimchi and all the global like chefs around the world who are using kimchi with their cultural foods and putting them together. And it just gave me so much of an appreciation of the globalization or the modernity, you know, how we keep with certain traditions, but we're also mixing and matching with other things.
Yeah, seeing kimchi from multiple perspectives.
That's right.
Around the world.
And that's why in one part of my book, I also say kimchi's gone global and so should you. Because, you know, the idea of authenticity, that, oh no, that's Korea's, or you're Korean, so there's a one-to-one relationship and you should know everything about kimchi, or you should be an expert in Korean. Like, why do we think this way? Like, you know, we want to learn. We come from different positions, we have different experience and different histories, and we want to learn about our cultural traditions when the time is right for us. One thing I really, really appreciated from my mother is that she taught me Hangul when I was young. So even that little bit that she taught me, look, all my life I have been able to do something with it, right? And now in my life right now, I'm ready to learn more, like self-determination, right? It's like I want to learn it, and now I'm ready. I have the foundations to build my skill, and I just thank her so much for giving me that when I was quite young. Because I think if you told me I have to go learn all this now, oh, you know, who has the time, right? Even if you have the desire.
Yeah.
So exactly. This is where I now I work with parents, and I know they're very busy, but I really want them to know that even the little bit that you could teach them when they're quite young can go a very long way in the future. And don't force, because if you force, then they just push back. You know, the time will be right when they are curious. And if they have some literacy, some tools, some language, they can read and write, oh my God, they could make their own picture book.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the process of creating this book is much more complex than I thought before when I'm reading this book. So after knowing all these stories, I feel like, oh my god, the process is really complex. Like it began with your experience as a researcher, like finding why I need to create that kind of picture book, because you also want to engage the audience, like children as well. And followed by, you need to know the process, you need to learn that and document all the processes. That is very complex. And then you need to find the illustrators that fit into all these kind of elements, and also think about the words that you choose to put into the book. So I feel like, oh my god, this kimchi book is not only about the food itself, but I think it also represents you as a researcher, as a teacher, and as a child in your family. And I think that is really great in representing yourself. And I think the most important thing, like just now you said, passion, motivation, and interest. These are all elements are very important in really making you creating this book. And also now you are sharing it with others and inspiring the parents to create their future picture book as well.
That's an amazing summary, Melissa.
It's an amazing.
That's incredible. You just nailed it.
Really, yeah, because I listened very carefully and I'm so excited to all these things.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I really think this is a representation of who I am, and every single decision that's made in here has been made with some care and thought. And you know, this is another reason why I love teaching graduate students, because you didn't come here because somebody told you to. You come here because you want to. But think about education today, where children have to kind of go to school, and then their literacy is like
oh, you learn that.
You have to read this book. You have to learn this. You have to do, and you know that they're not interested. Of course they're not. Can understand, right? So and it's not just about they're not interested. It's like there's lots of kids who have lots of varying, you know, proficiency in, I can do this but I can't do that. Maybe I'm good at speaking and listening, but I'm not so good at reading. You know, there's so many combinations. And then just to give them one way of doing something, I think that is really, that's very bad. And if you really want, you know, to have an inclusive society where people can learn to read and write and do all these amazing things, you have to open up the space, right? You have to bring more modes so that people can bring their knowledge. I don't know a lot about kimchi, but I've eaten it. I know something about it, that, and I have enough foundation for me to go and document things, to read something, to use Google Translate to find something, use my Chinese knowledge to do something, you know. And then I find an illustrator and I say, yes, help me, you know, and then we can make this book, right? So to me, look, when I make an academic book, it takes me, about a year, 2 years to make it. Probably nobody reads it, but but this took me a year or two to make too, and everybody's reading it. So I'm just so thrilled. I can't wait to make my next.
I think that is the best evidence of your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah.